what time it is. Marvin Devine, Huber, Axel, and you know how we do. Yeah, I got the juice. Big game cool, make them look like cool. Always play it cool, that's the biggest rule. Forget what they doing, keep on doing. I've been making loot since like 22. Ask me how I made it right here in the booth. I'm always pursued cause of what I pursue. That's greatness, yeah, I gotta make it, I got things to lose. Boy, wanna get in my crew, but you can't get in my crew. Me, Axel, and Huber, way too fireable. When this joint drop, better call the troops. And when you hear the drop, better raise the roof. Better raise the roof. You already know what happens when we link up. Let's go.
What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to Steve the Kidney Nurse. Thank you for joining. Please share this broadcast. Share this broadcast. I was actually looking for this broadcast on my personal page. So you can go to Steve the Kidney Nurse Facebook page or YouTube or Urban Health Outreach Media YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us tonight. So tonight, who is JJ Voorhees Collins? We're going to find out tonight. She's a health and wellness coach. She has her own Facebook group. So without further ado, let me give her the VIP intro. Hey, JJ, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. Your name is not up there. Hold on. Let me remove the banner. There we go. There we go.
All right.
So you in Ohio? What state you in?
I am in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, you're in Tennessee. That's right.
Yeah.
So how's the weather down there?
Cold, 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 cold. This morning it was 14 degrees outside, and for us that's very extraordinarily cold. We're not used to that cold this early in the year.
Right, right. So, who is JJ Voorhees Collins? Tell us your story. How did you get um, to be part of a diabetes support group on Facebook? About 5,000 members.
Um, it's kind of a long story. I'll try to make it as concise as possible. But well, you asked who is JJ Voorhees Collins, and that's me. I'm a crazy lady. No, just playing. I've been in healthcare for a really long time, like a really long time. I started when I was really young. Just really took an interest in helping provide care and took an interest in the medical science behind it all. And started out volunteering at a hospital and went on to doing some EMT work and medical assistant in a clinic and all different kinds of stuff like that. What I saw in my work at the clinics that I worked for made me develop a really strong love for public health and education, because what I saw was that a lot of people were coming in for things that could be managed without so much healthcare, without having to come to the clinic all the time and constantly, changing meds and increasing doses and things like that. And I noticed that there was a gap in people's knowledge and in understanding the healthcare conditions that they might have and the best way to manage those. There was a gap between what the research says and what clinical care standards are versus what people were actually being told by their primary care providers. And so I went to graduate school and got my master's in public health. And I had been around diabetes a bit growing up. I grew up in a Section 8 housing complex in Trenton, New Jersey, and nutrition was not good there. There was lots of obesity and things, and there were people with diabetes. And so it was, nothing to see me or for me to see people, having to stick themselves with insulin or check their number. My aunt had diabetes and ended up passing away from complications from it. But fast forward to me getting my master's degree, the week of graduation, my husband got really, really sick. And I ended up having to leave campus early because he couldn't function and he was taking care of our kids. And as it turns out, he was in diabetic ketoacidosis, and he had this absolutely insane infection all through his sinus cavity that started spreading to his brain. And the ER doctor says, your blood sugar is 489. And I said, what? Oh my gosh. And I said, well, he was on steroids for this infection that he had. And the doctor says, yeah, the steroids aren't going to make it that high. He's got diabetes and we're going to start him on insulin. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a life-changing condition. So I have to learn everything that I possibly can about how diabetes works, what the gold standards of treatment are, and, things that we had the power to control here in our house in order to, make him better, because I wanted him to be around for myself and our kids and stuff. And so that's when I really kind of dove in to diabetes care and learning all of the ins and outs about it, because, again, wanted to help my husband. And then along the way, I had some friends that ended up with diabetes. And unfortunately, both of those friends passed away directly related to complications from type 2 diabetes. And that kind of started a fire in me to try to do whatever it was that I could as a healthcare professional to try to prevent these deaths from occurring, because they were definitely preventable had these folks been given the appropriate time and education and instruction by their care teams. And so I made a decision to kind of step away from traditional healthcare and get into health coaching, because that's where I think the magic happens with people. Often they go to the doctor, they get a diagnosis, it hits them like a truck. They're not sure where to start, where to begin. The doctor certainly doesn't have time to hold their hand and explain everything. They're not getting paid for that, and they have, 5 other patients waiting. So they don't have time to do that. And that's where health coaching comes in, is that we kind of bridge that gap between provider and patient and make sure that they both understand each other, and to really help develop in the patient the mindset and attitude that they have power to affect change for themselves. Mm-hmm. There are things that they can do. So in getting started, with the diabetes thing, I started checking out groups on Facebook, and found that there were a lot of groups out there that were very militant in how they approach support. Many of them were shaming people for choosing to eat carbohydrates, giving dietary restrictions and parameters that they were unlicensed to be giving in the first place. And so myself and a couple of other members got frustrated, and we said, well, let's start our own group. And that was January 19th of 2019 that we started the group. And I think in the beginning, we had carried some people from some of the other groups that we were in. And I think maybe we had about 100 people. And what we've done over the course of the last 2 years is just sort of preach the gospel of everybody's welcome. We're a support group here. We're not here to tell you what you can and cannot eat. We'll give you some guidance. We'll talk to you about our experience, but we're not going to shame you. We're not going to, browbeat you and, shake our finger in your face. We're all about support and celebrating the small wins that people can accomplish each day, and providing encouragement and positive reinforcement when people feel like it's getting hard to manage, because, they've changed their diet and the numbers are fluctuating and they don't understand what's happening. And, then on this day, they ate something that they definitely know they shouldn't have, and their number's normal. And that, causes confusion and just makes people feel like it's a never ending cycle that they're never going to get under control. And through that message, word of mouth spreads real quick, and people just kept flocking in. And we hear just about every single day, man, thanks for this group. I've learned so much here. My doctor never told me any of this stuff. I'm glad that I learned from you all. And that's why I get up every day.
What's been the biggest challenge in being a health and wellness coach?
The biggest challenge, truth be told, is people's ability to cover the cost of having a service. And previously, health coaching was not something that was approved by insurance companies. Just last year, the American Medical Association approved health coaching to be a billable service. And the insurance companies were supposed to develop some codes so that health coaches like myself can bill insurance on behalf of the patient. But COVID happened, and so they didn't finish doing the coding for that. They had to build all new codes for COVID-related stuff. Mm-hmm. So we're still waiting on that. What I find is that the people that need my help and the help of others like myself the most are the people that really don't have the extra means to cover the cost. And that's not to say that diabetes doesn't, affect everybody. I mean, it knows no boundaries as far as, socioeconomic status or ethnicity or neighborhood even. But the research definitely demonstrates that people in both urban and rural areas, that don't have access to premium insurance plans, and that have doctors that have a really large patient population, those folks end up falling through the cracks and not getting the care that they truly need, and they don't have the means to hire somebody else to help them.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that's the biggest challenge is knowing that there are people out there that definitely need you, but that don't have the means to cover the cost. And even I've run into where I've done lots of free coaching sessions, group coaching sessions, and stuff like that. And I tell people, I understand if you're in a financial bind or something, and we can work something out. Or I'll even give you like a few free sessions just to help you kind of get things started and give you some resources. But people just have this idea that, well, I can't afford that after this, so let me not even go ahead and get started. Let me not waste your time. And I wish that I had a better way at this point to convince people it's okay. There's help available. Let's work together to try to figure out where we can find that help.
Wow. Now, can you just tell us what exactly does a health and wellness coach do? I mean, I know it's probably a list, but in the short term, what mainly do a health and wellness coach do?
So what we do is we take you, the client, patient, person, and we say, okay, what are you looking for? What is it that you feel like you need help with? And just kind of get an idea of where the person thinks that they're at and what they think that their problems are, their issues. And then we do a little bit of exploring and understand where the person would like to see themselves in the future. We'll talk about 6 months, we'll talk about a year, 2 years, maybe even 5 years. And the purpose of doing that is to help the individual develop the why. Why are they investing in their health? And then we work together to come up with a vision of how that person wants to feel and be in the world. With the health issues, what health issues are we trying to get under control? And that's, the physiological health. But we also look at mindset and how the person wants to feel. We look at, career, finances, all different kinds of stuff, because all of those things contribute to your overall health and wellness as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Once we establish what that person wants to set out to accomplish, we go through and we say, okay, is this realistic? How confident are you that you can accomplish these things that you set out for? And so we, take a moment, jot that down, think about that. And then we delve in more to what the person thinks are the barriers to good health and wellness. Are they having financial trouble? Do they not feel like they're communicating with their doctor? And we work through those things. We write those things down as a reference. And then we come up with goals to help them get from point A to point B. And in my practice, I use SMART goals. I know as a nurse, you're familiar with SMART goals, right? And that way, it's not some ambiguous, dream of the future. It's a concrete set of steps. I like to call them experiments that we're going to try to see if we can move the needle in the direction that we're trying to go. And I always encourage my clients to talk about any, problems they might be having that's affecting their wellness, questions. Sometimes, there's education involved in terms of, well, I just got diagnosed with this thing and I have no idea what it is. Okay, well, let me tell you about it. Here's the information. We review the goals periodically, and, as we move the needle forward, we reevaluate those goals and set new goals. For example, when it comes to diabetes care, I have lots of people that come to me starting, well, my doctor told me I need to lose weight. I have to lose 30 pounds. Well, we're not going to worry about the 30 pounds right now. That's an overarching thing. How about let's look at, what you're doing after you're eating. Maybe let's try take a walk. Maybe let's try take a walk 3 times a week for 30 minutes. And then, over time, we see how well they've done. And my goal for people is to have them walk into their provider's office with their lab results and give them a high five or tell them job well done. Because I find that a lot of people are intimidated by going to their healthcare provider.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my doctor's going to be so mad at me. I know my A1C probably didn't come down enough. They're probably going to tell me I have to stop eating this or that or something. And a person should never feel like that when they go talk to their doctor. Their doctor's supposed to be there to help them. Their doctor works for them.
That's what I was going to say. Because
right?
They could fire their doctor.
And most people do not understand that they have that power to do that. The doctor's there for their expertise and their knowledge, but also their support. At the end of the day, though, you and me are the only people that live inside this meat popsicle we've got going on here. We're the only thing.
Let me ask you, why do you think that a lot of people give the control to the doctor and don't take the power themselves?
I think that when you're diagnosed with a condition like diabetes, really many conditions, just about every one of them, with the exception of stuff that happens related to accidents. But when you get diagnosed with a chronic condition, there is a lot of playing the blame shame game, as my sister calls it. And it's where people start blaming themselves. And society does too, as does also the healthcare community. I'm certain during the course of your career, you've seen and heard some of that yourself. And some, providers, bless their heart for being providers and showing up and doing stuff. But they're not all that great about helping a patient feel accepted and helping that person not feel like it's their fault. And there's this diabetes carries a stigma. Oh, well, you did it to yourself because you ate too many marshmallows and you ate too many pieces of pecan pie and, you were just lazy and stupid.
But that's not really the case. How diabetes starts with sugar. It has to do with the fats and the cholesterol and
it's a whole series of metabolic processes that for some reason are impaired. And what the research tells us is that it's a combination of genetic factors. It's a combination of environmental factors that are outside of our control, going all the way back to events that occurred when you were in the womb, chemicals that you could have been exposed to, viral infections that you could have been exposed to. Your home environment growing up is a big contributing factor. There's this thing called it's the ACE scale. It's it's like a trauma scale that measures all of the 10 or 20 different things that you might have been exposed to as a child. Incarceration of your parents, financial trouble, death in the family, splitting of parents, being a victim of abuse or bullying. All of these things, if your mom experienced those while you were in the womb, they literally have the power to flip an epigenetic switch on you and activate genes that under normal, non-stressful circumstances would ordinarily never turn off. And we have another problem where providers, in part because of cultural beliefs and regional differences and things like that. Like here in East Tennessee, we have one of the highest rates of obesity and type 2 diabetes and hypertension in the country. And there's a culture thing that every family event revolves around food. And there's lots of shortcuts using processed food and things to make for family gatherings and so on. Everybody loves their fried chicken and their biscuits and gravy and all that stuff. And so some of the providers around here have this attitude that, well, nothing's going to change about this area, so I'm just going to stick them on metformin and a blood pressure pill and a statin and send them on their way and just tell them to come back in 3 months so I can run more labs and refill their script. Some providers are getting wise to the importance of providing education and providing opening the door, if you will, for other support. But it's really slow going. And within the last, I want to say, week or so, I've had 5 or 6 people tell me the exact same story from all across the country. Yeah, my doctor ran my blood work. He told me I was diabetic. He gave me a script for metformin, told me to see him in 3 months. Didn't even give them a meter to check their blood sugar. And
no
I'm over here
to see a diabetic educator?
Nothing. No referral to a dietitian, no referral to a diabetes educator, no health coach referral, no instructions on exercise. And the nutrition guidance has been to the extent of stop eating white things, don't eat white flour and potatoes, and no processed carbs, no candy and sugar and no soda. That's the extent of the education that these people are getting. And so
wow.
Myself, with my personal clinical background, my public health work, and spending lots of time just getting into the social media community, I'm like, hey, doctor or PA or nurse practitioner, whatever provider it is, don't you think that the patient needs to be educated on how to be checking their number? Because they're at risk of, hypoglycemia, the blood sugar being way too low and end up, having a seizure or passing out or something. Or, extremely high sugar, diabetic ketoacidosis and hyperglycemic hyperosmolar syndrome and the stuff that puts you in the ICU. So they're at risk for those things. But more importantly, you're giving them medication and you're telling them, well, don't eat this and don't eat that and, take a walk around the block. Well, how in the world are you going to know if those interventions are working? Mm-hmm. And whether or not why should a person have to wait for 3 months to go get another A1C, which isn't really the best measure of diabetic control anyway? Because that's it's an average. It's a 3-month mm-hmm. average. It does not account for the outliers on either side of the scale. And so, if the person's having constant lows, we know their meds need to be adjusted, or maybe they need to get rid of a med or two. And if they're constantly high, well, that particular med or that combination isn't working. You can't know any of that if you're not having them checked. We cannot manage what we don't measure. Mm-hmm. It's critical for us to do that. And so it just absolutely blows my mind that people are being given the diagnosis, sent out the door with not even acceptable bare minimum, as in like bare minimum of expected clinical standard of care.
So with that being said, how can we increase that education so we can reach those people that they're sending out just with the script of metformin with no education? If they don't know to look for people like yourself or what we do here on Urban Health Outreach Media, how do we reach those people to educate them to kind of change that mindset?
I think continuing with social media presence is highly important, because as in other domains of living, particularly politics and a few other things, and also, with the pandemic and everything, people are trying to get their education from social media because it's keeping it in short, digestible bits is something that seems to work well for people. Nobody wants to sit and listen to an hour and a half long lecture about the mechanics of your pancreas, right? But people will listen to short, 10-minute messages. So, doing social media campaigns like that, I think, is an excellent idea. I think it's important for us healthcare providers and what I would call patient activists, people who have been patients and they've been through the mill and they've been through the disease process and they learned a whole bunch. And, those folks acting as community stakeholders and mentors, talking about it with people any chance you get. And all of us going to the healthcare providers and saying, hey, we got to change what we're doing. Here's what I noticed in my local neighborhood about the problem. How can we, develop some kind of community action committee to try to address these issues? And talking to insurance companies and convincing them that it is critical that they cover these services for people who are diagnosed as diabetic, because for every dollar they spend today, they're going to save like $22 in the future by reducing the amount of cost burden to the insurance company and also to the government funded payer systems like Medicaid and Medicare.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sorry, what's the name of your support group on Facebook?
It is type 2, as in the number 2, the numeral 2, type 2 diabetes support group.
Okay, right. Now, y'all just talk about diabetes. Do you talk about any other conditions outside of diabetes, like kidney disease or heart disease or high blood pressure that kind of ties in with diabetes?
Mm-hmm. We talk about any topic that is related to diabetes. And we know that diabetes is often a precursor for many people to developing these other diseases. Now, not everybody with kidney disease has diabetes, obviously. And not everybody with heart disease has diabetes. My mother is an example of a person that she had metabolic syndrome, she had heart disease, she never tested for diabetes. She ended up with Alzheimer's. And those things are related. So anytime anybody has a question, if they're a diabetic person in the group or a family member of somebody, and then, they get another diagnosis. Oh, well, I just found out I have heart disease, or I just found out I have kidney failure or something like that. We totally engage those discussions. Anytime that I find research pertaining to whatever topic it is, whatever disorder, disease, syndrome, I always post the research articles and a list of resources. And we encourage discussion about anything that's bothering a person, because it truly is all connected. And if you can begin to address one of those issues, mm-hmm. you will also see improvement in all of the other issues.
Wow. Now, you also have, I've seen in the group, dietary information as well, education of different foods.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we do. We talk a lot about food in the group. And that's primarily because type 2 is a bit more challenging than type 1, in the sense that a type 1 diabetic understands that the insulin is dosed on their expected carb intake, and they have to take insulin, and that's just all there is to it. With diabetes, or type 2 diabetes, it's a bit more tricky because these folks have to learn what foods make them go high and what foods make them go low. And what we have found is that there are a variety of different diets out there. A lot of so-called nutrition gurus that don't exactly have either nutrition education or clinical education. They just like they went and got like a little fitness personal trainer license over the course of a weekend, and now they're suddenly a nutrition expert.
Okay.
And they've come up with, all these different, diets. You have the Whole30, you have paleo, you have Atkins, you have keto, you have Mediterranean. I mean, and the information can be really, really confusing. We have lots of people that come into the group all the time asking, well, what am I allowed to eat? And the answer is, you can eat whatever you want, but we have to check our number to see what those foods do to us. And it may be that your doctor told you to do a Mediterranean diet, but if you're checking your number and you're finding that your blood sugar spiking up after that around the 2-3 hour mark, well, it might just be that for your specific physiology, that diet doesn't work for you. You've got to try something else. And so we have in our group, we have a functional nutrition specialist and we have a registered dietitian. They're a little on the quiet side. Every now and again, they chime in if they see something, but they kind of help certainly guide me in terms of, what's a good thing, what's a not good thing. And we can't provide specific nutrition guidance for an individual. Like we can't tell somebody, well, we want you to have 30 grams of protein and 30 grams of carbs and 30 grams of, we can't do that because we don't know what the individual's history is. Maybe they've got some restrictions or allergies or whatever. But we provide some overall guidance on the basics of these different dietary strategies. We provide the science on why they may or may not work for you. And then we have, tons and tons of recipes that we post all the time.
Wow.
We actually have a sister group specifically for people that have an Instapot. So it's type 2 diabetes friendly recipes for the Instapot.
Now, what is that, Instapot?
It's kind of like a new age crock pot. Where it's got, like 10 different functions, and you can pressure cook things, you can steam cook, you can bake cakes in it, you can cook roasts in it, you can, I think you can like make cheese and butter, like it's this all-in-one super gadget that cooks stuff like that. So like meat that would normally take you, 30 minutes to cook will be done in like 10 or 15 minutes in this gadget. And one of the big complaints that I hear from people all the time is, well, I don't really know how to cook, or I don't like standing in the kitchen chopping vegetables. I need food that's going to be easy. One of the reasons why I was eating McDonald's for all these years is because it's easy. So people have a bit of an apprehension about cooking because they don't know technique and, they don't want to get all fancy and it's too much work. Instapot solves that. You just put all your stuff in according to the recipe, push the number, push start, voila, you're done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Almost sound like a robot.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I actually do not own one.
Making your food.
But it's on my list. I, however, like to cook. I cook just about every day. And that's another part of the passion with the diabetes thing, because my husband is, born and raised in the South, and, they've got lots of different foods and things. And he's got a sweet tooth. He's got a sweet tooth. And I said, well, I don't want him to fail at managing his diabetes because he feels deprived and has to go, get a candy bar at the gas station. Let me see if I can take some of his favorite things and figure out how to substitute ingredients to make them more diabetic friendly. And so I've spent the last several years doing that and figured out a bunch of stuff.
Oh, that's
so now
awesome.
I make, like cakes and pies using sugar alternatives and gluten-free, low-carb flour, almond flour, and there's a few other flours. Instead of, mashed potatoes, we have mashed cauliflower. And instead of pasta, we have zucchini noodles. And,
wow, that sounds good.
And the thing that I can say with absolute certainty is that no matter what diet you try, what way, I hate the word diet, because diet sounds like it's temporary and it sounds very restrictive. And so I tend not to use those words when I'm working with people, because it's all about, let's keep it in a positive light. Let's use positive words now. So I like to refer to it as a way of eating. So no matter what way of eating you choose to try out or subscribe to, the one rule that's a constant for everybody is the more whole foods, the better off you're going to be. Ditch the processed foods.
Right.
I have a suspicion that many of these manufacturing chemicals are in part to blame for causing people to have blood sugar spikes, because they set off almost like an allergic reaction that messes with your GI tract, which messes with the hormone signals, and everything kind of gets out of whack. And then your body says, oh, we have inflammation. We're going to need some extra glucose because we got to figure out what this inflammation is and fix it. And so you're constantly eating these chemicals. They're creating inflammatory conditions inside your body, and your body's spinning its wheels trying to figure out how to fix it, where, what to do. And so you're just keep producing glucose, keep sending glucose out there. And then you feel hungry, right? And you're tired and you're thirsty. And so, oh, well, let's, drink a Mountain Dew and let's, eat a bag of chips. I need some quick energy, because your cells are starving, because they're sending out all the good stuff to fix the inflammation that never goes away. And when people start using more whole foods, they feel better. The swelling in their knuckles and their ankles goes down. They have more energy. They sleep better. Even my own self, I am not diabetic, but I have some autoimmune stuff, and every time I go off the eating really super clean, I end up with symptoms. And then I'm over here like, I don't know what I did. What happened? Oh yeah, dummy, you went to that damn restaurant that you shouldn't have ate at. And
let me ask. No, go ahead and finish.
I was just going to say, it's amazing. Many of us are sick and tired, and we've been sick and tired for a long time, and we don't realize how sick and tired we actually are until we make some changes. And then it's just like,
what has been the biggest challenge with clients?
You mean in terms of them having progress, or in terms of getting clients?
Making progress.
Making progress. One of the big challenges is a relationship with food. That is not to in any way suggest necessarily disordered eating, although that is a thing that is fairly common, and it's definitely important for people to spend some time thinking about whether that might be an issue, and to consult with a psychologist or therapist that specializes in such things. But relationship with food is a big deal, because we associate it with reward. We also associate it with soothing and being consoled. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we have this culture. Somebody gets married, what do? We have a giant party with food. Somebody has a baby, we have a party with food. Somebody gets divorced, we have a party. Usually dinner or something like that. It's a birthday, food. Someone dies, food. And you can often talk to a person and they can usually tie a specific event that occurred at some point in their past where that impulse for that need was immediately tied to some kind of food item or some kind of family situation involving food. For myself, I can remember that when it was time for me to go to the doctor to get blood work drawn when I was a kid, my mom would say, if you be real good and be real still and let them get this blood from you, I'll buy you a Charleston chew. Oh, a Charleston chew. Okay, I can do it. And many of us, if we really spend time thinking back to it, there's something like that. And those two things got hardwired into the brain as a coping mechanism, as a habitual response. And these things can be rerouted. We can, what's the word I'm looking for? We can kind of reprogram those neural pathways to think differently. But it starts with awareness.
Mm-hmm. Do you think...
sorry.
Us being high, the saying comfort food?
Do I think what?
From being hardwired, that we get the phrase comfort food. How we always mention this.
Oh, yes.
Comfort food.
You've seen the show Golden Girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anytime either one of them had a problem, what did they do? They went and sat in the kitchen, and it was either ice cream or cheesecake. Right? And, you watch movies, and oftentimes they'll have somebody who can't sleep, somebody who has insomnia, and their mind is racked over some kind of problem, whether it be a relationship breakup or a work thing or whatever. And they're standing at the fridge at 1 o'clock in the morning looking for something. Just got to have something. Maybe it's a glass of milk. Maybe it's a piece of chocolate. I used to have a roommate that would eat like a bag of Reese's peanut butter cups to herself in the middle of the night.
Wow.
I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I just needed something. And so, when you have a healthcare condition, you have to change how you look at food. And we have to make a shift from the food being a reward kind of thing to food as being fuel. And so the analogy I like to give my clients is your body is like a car, right? And the food is the gasoline that makes, and the food goes into the tank, which is your GI system, and then it gets combusted. It gets broken down, and we feed the colony of microbes we have in there, and then they produce all of the necessary chemicals that the rest of our body, including our organs, especially our kidneys, need to be, and our brain too, obviously. They produce all the things that we need to function. Now, what happens if you go pouring sugar into the car's gas tank? You kill your motor.
Mm-hmm.
You kill your engine. The same applies to our body. When we have all of this extra added sugar in products, and a lot of it's hidden very, very well. Great example is spaghetti sauce, tomato sauce for pasta. It's loaded with sugar. And, if you look at the serving size on the back, the serving size is like a thimbleful. Now, who eats a thimbleful on their pasta, right? Give me like 2 cups of sauce, right? So you're, whatever the nutrition label says, you're probably eating about 3 to 4 times that amount.
Mm.
And so, you know, having all this added sugar eventually is going to cause damage, because sugar is a desiccant. It eats through things, right? This is why in nursing we don't mix up our TPN with other lines and stuff, because it has to be dedicated for that. And we have to change the line every so often, because that sugar solution that's going through there eats at the inside lining of the tubing, right? We got to change it out. We got to keep it separate and all that stuff. Well, the sugar, if you have this high circulating sugar all the time, because your body thinks your liver thinks it needs to produce a bunch of it, and you have a bunch of it stored in your fat and muscle tissue already, and then you're putting more sugar in because you're just consuming it and you're not able to burn it off through movement or just your metabolism in general. You keep putting sugar in because you have this product and that product that has it. The circulating sugar eventually eats holes inside your blood vessels. And that's where you get the places that cause plaques and, you know, blood clots. Because you have these little micro holes, and the body says, oh, ooh, white blood cells and platelets, come on in. Oh, hey, cholesterol, we need you to plug up this hole over here. And when that happens over and over and over again, the scar tissue develops and the lump gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we have, you know, where the blood vessel gets cut off from circulation. Wow. And that's where we have trouble. Well, shoot, I just lost my train of thought. I was on a roll.
That's where we have problems. Oh, that's right. Yeah. We're coming down to the end of the show, but what I want you to do, because you said a lot. Now, what can people do who are diabetic or who are at risk for diabetes type 2 or already have it? What do the behavior? Where can they start to make a shift to, you know, head in the right direction for people who may not have their blood sugar in check or running a tight glass of
So the two biggest things that I get my clients to do when we get started is, number one, eat to the meter. That's what we call it. And that is where you are going to be checking your blood sugar within 15 minutes after you get up, 2 hours after you eat breakfast, right before lunch, and 2 hours after lunch, right before dinner, and 2 hours after dinner. This is the best way to figure out what food works well with your body and what food your pancreas says, nope, I'm not dealing with you. This is the absolute best way. Again, as I said earlier, we can't manage what we don't measure. We have to be checking the blood sugar. If your doctor did not give you a blood sugar meter, guess what? You can get one at Walmart for $20 or less. I think the meter's less. The strips are maybe $20. Actually, I think the meter itself is $9 at Walmart. The brand is called Rely On. Works well. Lots of people use them. Usually never any problems that I hear. So you want to be checking that blood sugar. And this will give you an idea of, hey, I ate an apple and peanut butter. My body likes that. Oh, I ate watermelon. My blood sugar went up too high. My body doesn't like that. Checking your blood sugar before you eat is actually a great strategy to help you guide what you choose for your next meal. So if you go and check your blood sugar and your blood sugar is 165 before you're about to eat lunch, then that would be a pretty good indication that you probably better choose more vegetables and protein for your lunch, and maybe less of a carbohydrate, less rice or no rice, maybe skip the pasta. If you check your blood sugar before lunch and you're sitting at 110, feel free to try having the pasta or the rice or the potato and see what it does to you. The second thing is to write these things down. So when you're checking your blood sugar number, write it down. Write down what time you took the blood sugar. Write down what specifically you ate. Write down what the blood sugar was 2 hours later. If you do that for a couple of weeks, you'll be able to see patterns. You'll be able to see how you go like this and up and down like this. You'll be able to see if there's something about the time of day that you're taking your medicines or that the time of day that you're choosing to eat. You will see what types of foods kind of keep you, within normal limits. Yeah, the blood sugar is going to go up some. That's normal. But are we within normal limits or the parameters that your doctor gave you? And you'll be able to see gradually, if you're focused on paying attention to what you're putting in the mouth hole, you'll see that your peaks and valleys start getting less and less, and that you start maintaining a more even blood sugar. And those are the absolute two most important things that I think every diabetic needs to be doing. Oh, I lost your audio.
Some diabetics, they can't manage that. Yeah, they can't manage that strict, tight control. Do you agree?
I'm sorry. Your sound had cut out, so I missed the first part of the question.
No, I said with some diabetics, they're not able to do that tight control.
Right. Yes. Some people just.
And so is that where health education?
Oh, there's a delay in the sound. So some people cannot maintain that tight control because they simply have decided they don't want to, and that's okay. It's everybody's entitled to freedom of choice in what they do for their body. But my job and your job too, we're going to let you make your own decisions, but we're going to make sure that you understand the implications of choosing to not do. And sometimes it's a knowledge gap. It's a learning curve for some people. And so the other most important thing is, all right, let's say we can't get super, super strict about writing everything down and, writing down the times and, being good little students of our diabetes and write everything down. Let's say we can't do that. Then the principle that I would like everybody to keep in the back of their head all the time is, when you got two choices, aim for the healthier choice. So, okay, you're not going to go and eat a giant bowl of salad with crazy dandelion leaves and endive and like weird veggies. Maybe you're not a veggie person at all. But let's say, you could eat the, can of green beans, or you could buy the green beans frozen. The frozen green beans are going to be the healthier choice because they have more of their nutrient content and fiber in them. So that's going to be a healthier choice. Let's say, you're craving something sweet, and you're not going to make, some kind of wacko, tree hugger chia seed pudding, because that's weird and you don't like stuff like that. Okay, well, how about we opt for the sugar-free ice cream instead of the regular ice cream? So always trying to aim for the healthier choice. Mm-hmm. And that isn't that hard. Sometimes it turns out to be a flop, where the thing that we try that's new, we don't like it. Maybe we don't like the texture or the flavor or something like that. But at least we tried. And that's where the celebration part comes in. We need to congratulate ourselves when we do make a choice that we know makes our body feel good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, okay, great. Wow. What would you
Uh-oh, it froze again.
like the audience to know before closing out? Can you hear me now?
Okay, there it is. Okay.
I said, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. What would you like the audience to know about diabetes before we close the show?
Okay. So what I would like everyone to know about diabetes is that it's not a your fault kind of thing. It happens. It can happen for a variety of reasons. It can happen because you have a family history of it. It can happen related to another medical condition or a treatment or something like that. But it's not the end of the world. You can totally get control over it. It starts with becoming a detective of what your own body does. It starts with developing awareness. For type 2 diabetes, it is possible to put it in remission. It's not a cure. We can't cure it because if we go back to doing the stuff that we were doing when we got diagnosed, it's going to come right back. But learning our body, becoming that detective, we can figure out how to live with it and live successfully with more energy and less risk of complications. And the power is within you. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Awesome. I got your support group up, Type 2 Diabetes Support Group. That's on Facebook.
Thank you.
Are you on any other social media? Are you on any?
I have a personal Instagram page that I haven't used yet. I need to get on the stick with the social media stuff. I'm a little old school on that. I need some tutorials. Instagram confuses me. But soon we will be branching out into some of the other social media platforms. And I know there's a couple of new ones that are similar to Facebook that I got to check out. But I would like to expand the group presence to the other social media avenues, just, to spread awareness and let people know that there's hope and support.
Awesome. And we can check out your Facebook group at Type 2 Diabetes Support Group, which is on Facebook, and it's an open group, right?
No, it's a private group. And the reason why is because we have to keep out trolls and bots and spammers. We have a lot of people coming in claiming they can cast spells for diabetes, and we have people trying to sell multi-level marketing products, and we don't allow any of that in our group. We don't allow sales. It's one thing if somebody asks about a product or something, and there's a willingness between two people to talk offline, but we don't do sales in the group because people with health conditions are constantly being bamboozled by fly-by-night companies making bullcrap stuff that doesn't do anything. And we really just wanted to protect the sanctity of this group and make sure that it's a safe place where nobody's going to be bullied or harassed or bombarded to buy silly products or subscribe to services and things like that. So we do vet people when they come in. We have some questions. We just ask you, well, how long have you had diabetes? What was it like when you got diagnosed? What are you hoping to learn from the group? We just basically do that to make sure that you're an actual human being and not some kind of, bot or AI type thing.
Oh, okay. Good. So, guys, if you do have diabetes and you're looking for a good support group, definitely check out Type 2 Diabetes by JJ Voorhees. JJ, thank you so much for taking the time for coming on Steve the Kidney Nurse to share your story and share about health and wellness coaching.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate your kindness
Because
and
you don't
willingness
hear.
to talk with me.
Oh, absolutely. You don't hear a lot about health coaching, health wellness, and coaching. So you have, like you said, diabetes, hypertension, kidney disease. So thank you again for coming on. I'll definitely talk to you soon, and have a great evening.
All right, thank you. I hope everyone else has a wonderful evening, and Happy New Year, guys. It's fast upon us.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy New Year.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
All right. I don't know why we was getting that delay at the end, but thank you guys for watching. I know you could be doing anything else tonight. We see you soon. Take care, and don't forget the Lisa Baxter Show tomorrow night. Talk to you soon. Peace.